You don't need to be born to be creative. You can actually learn how to become a creative person. And I don't know who needs to hear this, okay? But I know that for me, in the beginning, when I started dropshipping, I thought that I was not a creative person. And one of the reasons I think that why I couldn't start dropshipping was because I thought that you need to be a creative person. And honestly, I think my whole life I probably thought that I was not a creative person at all. Um, yeah, I found it hard to be able to just even think about ideas for anything. It was difficult for me. It didn't come naturally. And even if I did have an idea, it wouldn't be something that would be, I guess, very creative. And so for me, I guess maybe my entire life, I just identified as a not so creative person. And, that partly probably also came with, you know, made it hard to be able to want to start things, especially things in terms of business where you need to come up with new ideas. And obviously in business, most businesses, you need to come up with new ideas and you need to stand out and be different. And I thought that I didn't have that skill and therefore I couldn't start. And honestly, I was completely wrong, okay? So I went into dropshipping at the beginning thinking that I was not creative, right? And as time went on, I practiced a lot more with coming up with new ideas on video concepts and, looking at other videos and other products and seeing how those videos go viral and trying to twist it into my own concept for my own products, right? And I slowly, eventually got used to understanding how to do that, and it became kind of easily. Like I could easily do it now. I can look at any video and kind of think of, oh yeah, that's a good idea, right? But how can I use it for my own videos and my own products? And for some people, that sounds like something that is very easy. But if it's something you haven't done before, it can actually be very difficult. And it was for me in the beginning to understand how to actually do that properly. Took me a lot of times to get it because it wasn't just a simple drag and drop and that's how you do it. You need to understand that you need to use the idea that you found, but then twist it to make it about your product, right? Because the video that you find, it may not even be about a product. It may just be a random video, right, that went viral. And you need to understand that that video was actually a random video and wasn't to do with any product or any kind of selling. But it's your job to twist it around to make it about your product and to make the entire video solely about the product, but using that idea. And that skill of being creative like that is a lot more difficult. And that kind of art, right, took me months, many months, probably almost a year to properly learn that and understand it. And now for myself, it's so much easier for me to just look at a video and just know how exactly I need to do it. And it doesn't feel like it's difficult to think about. It actually becomes a very natural thing now. And that only happened because I put in the reps and I did it as long as I could, constantly practicing on how to do it properly. But I didn't know the mistakes if I did it on my own, right? If I was doing it on my own and no one out there told me what I was actually doing wrong, I actually wouldn't get it. But it was my mentors that, constantly looked at my videos and revised my videos and stuff like that, and eventually got to the point where I slowly got to understand it, right? But it wasn't easy, right? And especially being a person that's not creative or so-called not creative, right? It was very difficult. So yeah, and there was probably even a point for me where I thought that it was very difficult to do, that I don't think I can even do it one day, right? That was how much self-doubt I had in myself about this one problem with being creative. And maybe it's for some people they don't think about it, and because maybe it's because creativity is easy for them, and you're maybe one of the lucky ones. But I can guarantee you that most people out there who want to do dropshipping or want to do some sort of business, they have in the back of their minds that they are not a creative person, so they can't do any of the things that they want to do. But the truth is, you're wrong, and you won't understand it until you actually do it. All right, this wasn't something that I realized at the time. At the time, I never realized it. I never looked at it. I never thought about it. Right, that I wasn't creative. Like, I didn't think of it as an issue or something that would stop me from doing dropshipping. I still did dropshipping anyways, and I never let it kind of stop me from doing what I wanted to do. But that was only because in that time I wasn't going to let anything stop me from doing dropshipping or anything that I wanted to do. If I wanted to do something, I was going to do it, no matter how many things were happening in my life that was going to go bad or right. I'm still going to do it. And here we are today, right? And I feel like I am a very creative person now, and it's only been a year, right, of learning this kind of skill. And literally just over a year ago, I thought that I was a very uncreative person. I was never into arts. I was never into those dramas. And when it came to school in general, I never looked at, anything that was creative that, was easy. It felt very difficult, even just coming up with new ideas for things, right? Like when you're in a group project and, you need to think about ideas. For me, I was always the last person to put my hand up for that kind of stuff. And, solely it was probably because I identified myself as a non-creative person. And, something that I've learned this month is that identity is such a big thing. And immediately, if you identify yourself as a certain thing or person, right, that is going to be set in stone for you for the rest of your life until you realize it and you tell yourself that, no, actually, I'm not this kind of person. I'm better than that. Or, don't let anything stop you. And it's, one of the biggest things is literally identity. Is if you don't change your identity, then you'll constantly be in the same place that you are now. And yeah, like that was something that I realized this month, how much, we say things like, for example, a really good example, I think in Atomic Habits as well, like I said in yesterday, there was an example about identity in that book, and it talked about how you need to stop identifying yourself with these bad habits, right? And one of those was smoking, right? If smoking is a habit that you have constantly, right? Obviously, you identify yourself as a smoker, right? I need to go for a smoker, break, smoke, right? You identify as a smoker, especially for many, many years. Literally, that becomes you. You are a smoker person, and you go to smokers whenever you go to the pub and stuff, right? And to quit, it's difficult, especially if you still identify yourself as a smoker. You will never be able to quit. You need to completely change everything and change your identity, right? And how do you do that? Well, first of all, when you quit and people ask you, do you want to come out and have a smoke? Instead of saying, oh, sorry, I quit smoking, which refers that you used to be a smoker, so you still identify as a smoker or a previous smoker, instead of saying that, right, you say, I am not a smoker. I do not smoke. And by saying that, you are changing your identity in your head, right? Because you're no longer attaching yourself to that previous person who was a smoker. You're now saying, I'm not a smoker, I don't smoke, right? So you're detaching yourself now from that identity. And it is the same thing with being creative. You need to detach yourself from telling yourself that you're not a creative person. At least that's what, for me, I needed to do. And that's only something that I've realized recently. But it's the same with everything. It's not just with being creative or with being a smoker. It's with everything, okay? Anything that you want to do. And you'll see that that helps with you being able to quit bad habits that you don't want. And you can also start new habits that you want. But also help you with just life in general. And, it doesn't have to be habits. Just like being creative, right? Just like being a negative person. Just like someone who doesn't plan. Just like someone who, doesn't go on runs. Just like someone who doesn't go to the gym. If you change how you talk about yourself, right, to those personalities that you want to be, then eventually you'll brainwash yourself to actually become that. Right, and that is something a lot of people actually don't see, and I never really realized or saw or understood about myself. But then now I get it. Every time I see myself saying I'm not this kind of person, but then I want to be the opposite, I realize that I'm just saying everything wrong in my head. I need to change who I am, and in order to change that, I need to change the way I talk about myself and think about myself. And it's very difficult, especially in the beginning. It is super difficult, but you learn it, right? Put in the reps. Everything to do with learning is putting in the reps, and it will become natural. And for me, it has become very natural, right? And I always try and stop myself every time I do think about stuff like that, or think about things in a negative way, or, when I talk about an identity that I don't want to identify as. It's all in the head, and you need to change that about yourself, and it's very hard, but it is something good for you, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you learned something, maybe that before you didn't know that you could actually learn to be a creative person. And then maybe the creativity part was the part that's stopping you from starting dropshipping or whatever business you want to start, or doing the things or the goals that you want to achieve. Maybe it is, because for me it definitely was, right? One of the reasons on top of hundreds of other reasons, but this was just one of them, okay? And just like YouTube, it was really difficult in the beginning to film a video every single day, but as I go on, it becomes easier. Now it just becomes a habit, right? And I identify myself as a YouTuber now, right? Because I'm constantly making these videos. I'm constantly getting into the habit of it, and I want to identify myself as this kind of person, and so I'll work towards it. And instead of fearing judgment, fearing what people will think and feel, just don't care, right? So yeah, I hope you guys learned a bit from this video, got something out of it. I really do hope. Please subscribe. It really keeps me going with these daily videos. If you're new to this, I am uploading every single day, and just showing my progress of dropshipping as I go on. And, a lot of days I just want to help motivate people who are watching and are struggling to start themselves. And if you have any questions, please leave it down in the comments. I will try and reply to you, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video.